Hello everybody, how are we all this week? A quick hello to any new followers and likes, thank you for joining us. Quick introduction, I am Becky. I am the owner of Ghosts and Giggles, also known as Ghosts and Giggles Haunted Tours. So I do haunted tours, and then because of lockdown I haven't been able to do them, so I've decided to do mysteries of Gloucestershire videos, and I intend to do each county eventually. So this week's video is Sudeley Castle, and you will be seeing photos that I took when I went to the Spectacle of Light a couple of years ago. I'd love to try and go again this year. So shall we continue? Let's continue. So Sudeley Castle was built in 1443 on the site of a previous fortified manor house. It was built by John de Sudeley, Ralph Botler, King Richard III, Thomas Seymour and Edmund Brides. So it was designated a Grade 1 listed building on the 24th of February 1986. It was seized by the Crown during the Anarchy War, which was 1135 to 1153, and then became the property of Edward IV and King Richard III, who built its back. King Henry VIII and his wife Anne Boleyn visited in 1535 and later became the home of final resting place for his wife Catherine Parr. She's buried in the castle's church, St Mary's Church. So during the First Civil War it was used as a military base by King Charles I and Charles Rupert. By the start of the 15th century, the Sudeley name had gone extinct, and the Botler, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce it, family had inherited the castle through the marriage of Joan, the sister of the last Sudeley. So Ralph, I'm just going to pronounce it Botler. Botler. So Ralph Botler started construction of the castle in 1443, the same time as he became Lord High Treasurer of England. He built the castle on a double courtyard plan, with the outer courtyard being used by servants and men-at-arms. The inner courtyard and its buildings reserved for the use of Ralph and his family. Ralph was to sell Sudeley after he fell out of favour with the Crown. Due to him being a supporter of the Lancastrian cause, i.e. the War of the Roses, he also had to sell 6 other manors to help the Crown. Now, King Edward IV bestowed Sudeley to his brother Richard, Duke of Worcester, who used it as a military base before the Battle of Tewkesbury in 1471. Richard swapped Sudeley for Richmond Castle. Do apologise, burping, just had tea. Before re-inheriting it when he acceded. After the death of Richard in 1495, as property of the Crown, it was transferred to King Henry VII, who in turn gifted it to his uncle Jasper Tudor. So now we're going to skip forward a bit. So during his reign, King Henry VIII stayed at Sudeley once with Anne Boleyn. Leading up to the visit is when the dissolution of the monasteries happened, because, you know, he had such a brain. Anyway, after Henry's death, Thomas Seymour had secretly married Henry's widow, Queen Catherine Parr, without the permission of the king, causing a small scandal. Scandals were very easily done back then, I can say. In 1548, Thomas and Catherine moved to Sudeley. Catherine died here, obviously, because I just mentioned that, on 5th of September 1548 from what is described as child fever, 5 days after she gave birth to her daughter Mary Seymour. So she was buried in the church on the grounds 2 days later in the first Protestant funeral in English. Today her tomb is a life-size effigy lying under a canopy of ornately carved marble that is considered a place of pilgrimage. And we didn't go in it because we couldn't find the way in, but they light it up every year and you can go in the church and it looks gorgeous. So Queen Elizabeth I stayed at Sudeley 3 times during her reign, in 1574, 1575 and 1592, when a 3-day party was held for her, nearly bankrupting the host, Giles Bruges probably, 3rd Baron Chandos. So Sudeley's final royal occupant was King Charles I during the English Civil War. The castle was abandoned after Sir Edward Massey attacked with 500 soldiers and 2 cannons. The castle switched hands several times during the war, famously holding out against cannon fire by Sir William Waller, until one of its officers let the attackers in. So if you hadn't done that, maybe it could have been more grander than what it is today. But it's still gorgeous. I still love it. I've been there once. How bad is that? So in 1649, after the end of the Civil War, Parliament ordered the destruction of the castle, which took 5 months to complete, largely dismantling the inner courtyard and royal apartments, but they left much of the outer courtyard intact. I hope I don't do a lot of this with my hairbrush. Due to serious debt, George Bridges, 6th Baron Chandos, who was the current owner, couldn't afford to rebuild, and he died in 1655 after years of being held at the Tower of London. On his death, the semi-derelict castle was inherited by his widow, Lady Jane Savage, separating from the title Baron Chandos for the first time in a century. After 200 years, the castle was largely left in ruins, but was never fully abandoned. Sudeley was owned by the Pitt family, descendants of Lady Jane Savage's second marriage, try saying that when you're drunk, who in 1776 were elevated to a peerage as Baron Rivers. Baron Rivers? Baron Rivers. During the 18th century, it was rented out to tenants, most notably to the Lucas family, who entertained King George III on his visit in 1788. During this visit, a housekeeper, Mrs. Cox, saved the king's life by catching him after he fell down Octagon Tower. Lucas family were also involved in the rediscovery of Queen Catherine Parr's tomb in 1782, where her body was found to be entire and uncorrupted. That is until apparently someone, a groundskeeper or somebody, took a tooth. She was found in the lake and took a tooth from her bone, from her skull, and apparently something befell upon him and he swiftly put it back. In 1937, Sudeley was purchased by brothers John and William Denny, I think it's Denny, who were wealthy glove manufacturers. By then, one of the tenants has used the castle as a pub, you know, as you do, called it the Castle Arms, and treated it as a quarry, breaking it up and selling off the stone, timber and lead. I mean, that's bad as some of the councils and just destroying, you know. Anyway, I digress. Dent brothers refurbished the castle, choosing to leave part of it as picturesque ruins, giving it the character that can still be seen today. And I love, anyone who knows me, I love ruins. You just, yeah, anything abandoned. So by 1810 it was habitable again, being filled up with art and antiques. In 1854 it was inherited by the Dent brothers' nephew John and his wife Emma. Now Emma was known for her entertaining, hosting more than 2,000 people a year. She was also known for her letter writing, some of which survive today in the castle collection. Now I'd kind of picture like Bridgerton style parties and writing. We like it. Upon the death of owner Henry Dent Brocklehurst in 1982, I thought I got it wrong, the castle suffered from huge death duties which forced the family to sell off much of the land the castle relied upon for its upkeep. Now, during World War II, the castle was used as storage by the Tate Gallery as they moved their art from London in an attempt to keep it safe during the Blitz. A bit of a dark side to the castle during World War II because where the visitors car park is today, a prisoner of war camp for captured Italian and German soldiers known as Camp 37 was there. Sudeley is home of the current owner Elizabeth Lady Ashcombe, her children Henry and Molly Dent Brocklehurst, and her grandchildren. Lady Ashcombe, it might be actually Ashcombe, I might be saying it wrong, I apologise, came to Sudeley after her marriage to Mark in 1962. They spent the following years getting the castle ready to open to the public. When Mark died in 1972 of a stroke, I do believe, Elizabeth not only had to manage the castle on her own, as well as looking after their 2 children, she also had to deal with the castle's 3rd round of death duties. So I have to say, she has done very well because she was a single mother, and you know, it can't have been easy losing her husband so early and at a young age. In 1979, Elizabeth remarried to Henry Cubitt, 4th Baron Ashcombe, who is also uncle to Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall. So they decided to keep Sudeley open to the public as an historic attraction and started major restorations. The castle opens to the public seasonally, with the last event of the year, I'm pretty sure it's the last event of the year, being Spectacle of Light at Christmas, which also raises money for local charities as well. And I have to say, I think there's nothing quite like seeing ruins and castles like that after dark. So now we get on to the fun bit, people, the ghosts of Sudeley Castle. Now, by the way, that's just a small portion of the history. I tried to pick out the most important bits. There is so much more. Okay, the main ghost, and I think most popular ghost, is of course Queen Catherine Parr. Staff and visitors are said to have seen her ghost, with one visitor even capturing her figure on their camera. The figure sitting on the bed. She's also recognisable by the smell of apple-scented perfume accompanied by the sobs of a crying child. The next ghost is Janet, the housekeeper. She was a 19th century formidable Scottish lady who took the virtues of her young maids very seriously and would sit at the top of the stairs each night armed with a feather duster to fend off the amorous servants. Several people have had encounters with her ghost, including one teenage girl who, gotten separated from her tour group, came to face with the lovely Janet on the upstairs landing. She became hysterical when Janet began waving her feather duster at her. So obviously she thought she was off to be defiled by an amorous manservant. So the next one, Tithe Barn. To be frequented by a young girl in her 20s. She was a Victorian guest to the castle. She's described as having long auburn hair and wears a white dress. I kind of describe mine as auburn, especially when the sun hits it, goes this bright red. She's described as playful and happy. It's suggested that she had had a holiday romance. The barn is where she met her lover, and I am assuming ultimately where she met her death. There's not much about it that I've been able to find. There are other ghosts on the grounds as well. So there's a blacksmith can be heard hammering in the vaults, a young blonde boy playing in the garden, a friendly panting dog. Guests staying overnight have been terrified by a heavy weight sitting on the bed in the small hours. Other ghost dogs have been seen. One said to be a large black Labrador, hunting dogs and 2 King Charles Spaniels. Now I know, I think there is like a pet cemetery there, but the family's pets throughout the years have been buried on the ground, so that would also explain it. The end of the video. Thank you very much for joining me. A little FYI, 20th of March, please watch it out, and please, if you're free, it's a Saturday night, I will be doing a fundraising paranormal investigation at the Dick Whittington pub in Gloucester to raise money for Graham and his staff, who started 5 days after furlough finished. And he's started a hashtag called hashtag Save Our Venues. It's going to be interesting. I haven't done an investigation there before. It is on my tour of Gloucester. There's also been a lot of activity with one of the security guards. I'm not going to say her name in here in case she doesn't want me to say it. She has had a lot of experiences, and she's now a frequent guest on my tours. She takes the time to tell my customers, which is very nice of her. So I will be dragging my husband, who's listening in the bedroom. Babe, here he is. You're gonna be my cameraman, aren't you?
Yeah. On
March 20th, when we and you're gonna keep me sane and not hysterical.
Yeah.
Thanks, babe. Love him. So he's going to be my cat. So he's going to be the man behind the camera, while I get to talk to spirits. So hopefully we'll catch something, which would be nice that I can add to my tours. So thank you for joining me. I'm not sure what video I'll do next week. I'm umming and ahhing between two: Haunted Roads and maybe Berkeley or Berkeley Castle. I think it's Berkeley, which is up by Simbridge. Anyway, thank you for joining me, and I shall see you next week. Be safe, love each other, and be kind. Bye.